Comrades, so we can start our session now. This session, as you all know, it is regarding history of bank employees and also regarding our federation also. This session, as you all know, it is being, there is no need of any introduction, Mr. Pillai, no? Yesterday you might have seen, he was there in the class from morning 11:35 to 8:30. Yesterday I am sitting in the dais. I was just watching you all. That time, to my mind, I was thinking that I am around 24 years older than him. Because he was very fit here. And anyhow, he will be talking to you now. One more thing is there, after that a discussion will be there. You are having notebook with you. So any points you want to seek any clarifications or anything, you can write it at once. So that soon after the presentation itself, we can start the discussion also. Okay, I request Comrade P.S. Pillai to address this.
Dear comrades, I have to speak to you against so many odds. One is this weather in Delhi. I know it is very awkward to stand before people who listen to you with a monkey cap, so you can rather treat me as a monkey. Yesterday we had 3 classes. Today we will not have any class. I never take classes. I am not competent for that. I always try, whenever I am in the midst of bank comrades, I always try only to share my experiences, my feelings with my comrades. I always feel at home when I am standing between my comrades in banking industry. See, my voice is also not cooperating with me. So comrades, the subject given is, let me read it. History of bank employees movement vis-a-vis role of BEFI. You are all leaders of BEFI. BEFI has come out 2-3 years back, a voluminous book on the history of bank employees movements. If anyone of you has not seen it, it is not the fault of BEFI. Because the books were distributed to all state committees with clear instructions to distribute it among the members of the state or region or union, whichever they represent. So I presume that all of you have seen it, and it is not possible in a short span of 1 hour to delve in detail on the long history of bank employees trade union movement. Anyway, that is not possible by me. So I will only try to share with you some of the most important aspects. I am not going in a usual way of history, that is chronologically mentioning all those things, no. Bank employees, I do not know how many of you will be able to conceive the condition of the bank employees 60, 70 years ago. Because banks came into existence, of course, as far as I remember, Imperial Bank of India, which subsequently became State Bank of India. That was established sometime in 1930s. Reserve Bank of India came only in 1935. Thereafter, a few banks also came into existence. But by and large, in the 40s, several banks came up. So why banks come up in the society? What is the role of the banks? Is it not a question? Why this bank? Earlier it was not there. Only money transactions were done by people, by themselves, as we have learned that the barter deal or by some other means, but done by people themselves. Intermediary to handle money came. That is banks. So, primarily, banks have been an instrument of the bourgeoisie, a class emerged. We all should, whenever we talk of the history of bank employees movement, or for that matter, any history, we should have a perception on the social development of human beings. Very easy it is to be religious and believe that one fine morning a God created this universe, and the sixth day of his creation, he created man in his own image. That is very easy. But the other way is not that easy. Doing enormous research and trying to find out how this universe came into existence, and how all these living creatures came into existence, and how it was transformed into man, and why and how. If there is a more developed species than man, if so, when it will emerge. Anyway, for generations, it appears that by reaching the stage of humanity or man, that process is being stalled for the time being. Some other living creatures may come up. So, development of that human society, I don't go in detail about that, but in a nutshell, I would like to say, originally, humans were very, very close to other animals. They lived in the amenities provided by nature itself, taking shelter in a natural way, in caves or under the trees or whatever it is possible. And they fought with animals, animals killed them, and they killed animals. But subsequently, it's a very detailed process to examine that, but in a nutshell I am saying. Subsequently, they divided themselves into societies. And after that, when it was divided, the strong men and weak men always there were. And strong men began to assert, and they became the heads of small sectors. And thus comes a stage where human beings developed to such a stage that the strong men made the weaker men their slaves. So the first social order, we have to remember, was slavery system, slaves and slave owners. And thereafter, the second stage, as historical materialism defines, is feudal system, where there were kings, lords, and common people. And during this stage, mainly, or only after, men learned to produce their own food by cultivation. Earlier, they depended only on the meat of animals or fruits and such things getting from nature itself. But they learn to cultivate and have their food. So agriculture has got a very great relation with the development of the society into feudal system. Division of land, giving its ownership, etc., follows. I don't know how many of you might have gone through that book of what is his name? Describing this development of human species.
Charles Darwin.
Darwin is the scientist who evolved the theory of evolution. Recently, a living professor has written a book on this. Sapiens is the name of the book. Sapiens, Homo sapiens means humans with wisdom. Homo sapiens. There he examines the development. He has not made any direct invention of himself. He is relying on several researches done during centuries and noting them and made them in a beautiful book which is readable. There he narrates the importance of agriculture. And surprisingly, he says that the evolution of agriculture has been the greatest fraud on human society. Various aspects he explains why it is a fraud. Thereafter only became men greedy, selfish, etc., antisocial, like that. Anyway, while examining the history of mankind, human beings are called sapiens. Mankind, I noticed that he is very seriously anti-communist. that is there. I forgot his name. So, such studies have been there. And from this feudalistic society emerged after yesterday, Tapan also was trying to say that after this famous industrial revolution, the class called the bourgeoisie. And bourgeoisie, by the simple word bourgeoisie, generally people think that bourgeois is something antisocial or like that. No. By the word bourgeoisie, it only means the owners of means of production. It classifies because land is the one of the main means of production. But landowners are not treated as bourgeoisie. So when we say means of production, producing massive production is what big industries do. So bourgeoisie came and the system which they occupy is capitalism. Yesterday, Tapansen was trying to explain the main features of capitalism. And it is at this stage, that is the beginning of capitalism, the role of banks comes. Banks became very essential for the development of capitalism. If you, very often I do quote, whenever I speak to my comrades, a man called V.I. Lenin. I think none of you will be allergic with that name. V.I. Lenin. Because in modern world there are so many people who are allergic with that name itself. I would request you, all of you, because you are leaders who have to lead and guide the bank employees in the days to come. And I would like to say that after all, you are all boys. You may be, because this I told a young doctor, who examined my eye, and at the time his name contains so many degrees. Then I asked him, when did you clear all these degrees? After all, you are a boy. Then he said, no, I am not a boy. I am 45. And I have a boy of 20. Then I said, but for a man of 84, 45 is a boy. So in that sense only I am saying, some of you are maybe 50. Okay. An older boy, I would like to say. When I say boys, now, this is the way which I can speak. I digress myself, because whatever comes through the stream of memory to the tip of the tongue only come out from my mouth. Bhagat Singh was a boy when he became the center of attention of all Indians who were at that time watchful of the developments in India. And even now his name enthuses anybody. Why? So, in order to remember people like Bhagat Singh and try to belong to their clan, that is why I say even Hari Rao is a boy. He may be with bald head and grey hair, claim that I am a matured old man. Imbibe the spirit of that boy of 23 who was hanged. So banks, Lenin has written a pamphlet. He wrote it as a pamphlet, but it is a book. Now a classic book. I think either Dowde or Tapan mentioned that yesterday. No, I think it is imperialism the highest form of capitalism. And he has very beautifully defined that imperialism is nothing but the political name of monopoly capitalism. So, if I remember correctly, our new president is, as he has told, 20 or 24 years older than me. Still, his memory and intelligence are very much intact. He, on my recommendation, he has read the book recently. If I remember correctly, it is chapter 5 or so, which begins a chapter heading itself is role of banks. The role of banks. Where? It really means the role of banks in the process of capitalism developing into imperialism. So the first sentence of that chapter is capital in general dominated in the beginning of 20th century. This book was written in 1905. Capital in general dominated the beginning of 20th century, and it ends in 1905 with a warning to all of us. And finance capital will dominate by the end of 20th century. And that is what we are now seeing. Finance capital dominates. So role of banks has been, and he also says what they do in the society. Banks collect all the money from the public. Banks collect all the money from the public and place it at the disposal of the capitalist. Yesterday when Tapan said that all these big capitalists, their own investment may be 10%. Balance 90% is our money. How? We deposit in the banks and the banks give them. So how can bank employees trade union movements? What is trade union movements? Trade union is the first instrument of the workers to unite and bargain. Why unite and bargain? Simply, it is impossible for the worker to bargain or fight with the employer or the owner class. I just asked you, can any one of you imagine the condition of bank employees some 60, 70 years ago? You will not be able to. But I need not imagine. 70 years ago, there was one bank employee in my neighborhood. We were all surprised that this man, at that time electricity was not there in our places. This man goes by 7:30 in the morning because his job is somewhere in the town which is 5 miles away from his house. Goes by 7:30 and he comes back only by 8:30, 9 in the night with a torchlight. He was in a small bank called Deccan Bank. There was, now I don't go that past, even in 1960s, I joined a bank in 1964, the State Bank of Travancore. Even at that time, when I joined, it was a new branch, therefore the register, salary register, etc., were the same one which started the branch. So the salary register had the details of the salary of the employees working there. There were only 2 clerical staff, clerk, and 5 cashiers and 1 officer. And the salary of the clerk, when I noticed, I was surprised. The senior most among them, he had 45 rupees in the column of pay and 15 rupees in the column of DA. Total 60 rupees, the senior clerk. This was their pay. What I want to tell you is that bank employees were a set of workers who didn't have any definite service condition or wage structure until early 50s. Banks appointed people, even managers appointed people at their switch will. Banks terminated or dismissed or sent out people at their own switch will. This was the situation in 1940s. So I just only touch points. Almost every progressive movement in India, a democratic or revolutionary movement in India, had its beginning in Bengal. Naturally, in other places also there were. There were banks and bank employees movement in almost all big cities by 1940s. Present day big cities: Bombay, Calcutta, Delhi, Madras, Lahore, Karachi, etc. These were all in India. So movement, and Lahore also was famous for various movements. Bank employees, different banks, different pay scale, etc. It ran like that, but the idea of forming into a union crept in some of them. For this also, because I can't say anything in an isolated manner, we must have a general idea of the world situation. Second World War, what all things Second World War taught the people of the world. After that, a change in the correlation of forces. Till then, which were the very forceful countries, they were driven back, and United States of America on one side became the greatest power, and Socialist Soviet Union on the other side, more or less an equal power, not in financial terms or that, but with the willpower and all those things. So this had tremendous impact on the people of India against the British rule. There were so many very militant movements. Naturally, workers in different sectors also were enthused to fight against the oppression, against the misbehaviors, and for advancing some of the minimal rights. So I stop here by saying that in 1940, even though small unions were formed in different banks without any public appearances, and a union of foreign banks, because we were ruled by British, and there were foreign banks, mainly British banks. What we call now Grindlays Bank, which was National and Grindlays Bank, and the National Bank, the Chartered Bank, like that. And there was an organization, a union of foreign bank employees, which was called Exchange Bank Employees Union. That also with headquarters in Calcutta. They had some definite service conditions, etc. So Indian banks, native bank employees also might have got an inspiration from that. And to cut short, I would say that the idea of forming an all India union of bank employees was initially advanced by 3-4 young bank employees in Calcutta. I must mention one name here, that is Comrade Naresh Pal. Why? Because it was 3 comrades belonging to Calcutta: Naresh Pal, leader Naresh Pal, Manju Bishwas, whose real name is Sudhin Bose, and Parimol Chatterjee. These 3 people in a small dark room always sat and talked and thought of forming, and with various employees conveyed this. Naresh Pal was in Central Bank, Sudhin, I think, was in UCO Bank, and Parimal Chatterjee in some other bank, I don't clearly remember. And they decided that a call will be given to form an All India Organization of Bank Employees. I am not saying this from the bank employees movement, BEFI's history or anything that. AIBEA has come out with a big book some 20 years ago by that Bangalore-based Sundaresan. In that book, one whole page is devoted for Naresh Pal. He only says, even at that time he is a vice president of AIBEA, he only says it was Naresh Pal who took the initiative to form an All India Union. And there was a discussion what should be the name of that union, because by that time various unions have come up in various parts of the country. The name should be All India Bank Employees Association, and that was also given by Naresh Pal. This he has mentioned, Sundaresan. And Naresh Pal, without telling a few words about Naresh Pal, I cannot proceed. Many of you may be knowing all those things. Naresh Pal was in Central Bank of India, as I said, in the first conference, and I had the opportunity and fortune to hear all these things from his own, from the lion's mouth, as we say. He was thinking who should be the president of the union, because there should be some big name connected with the union. Then only these bankers will give some respects or consideration if you go to talk to him. After much thought, he approached one Niyogi, who was a famous man in Calcutta, very much involved in the freedom struggle and Congress movement. He approached Niyogi, K.C. Niyogi, and requested him to be the president of this All India Bank Employees Association which we are forming. He said, okay, if you are very particular, you can have my name as the president, but never expect me to attend your meeting and all those things. I will not have the time for that. No, this will be sufficient. Your consent to give the name. And with his name, he as president and one R.N. Malhotra in Bank of India as General Secretary, this was formed. And Naresh Pal remained. Naresh Pal even said that, oh, you all will be the office bearers, I will be there somewhere. But on their insistence, he became an office bearer. And what is the designation? Assistant treasurer, not even treasurer. See, one who took the initiative for forming that part we should not only simply hear as a part of history, but imbibe and take into our heart. Taking initiative and remaining rather silent and unnoticed. He was also a young boy at that time. That is how one sacrifices his ego and submits himself for the organization, not being interested what position I am getting. And if some positions come, okay, do justice to that. But I am not concerned what position I will be getting. Only assistant treasurer. And that was All India Bank Employees Association. Without malice, without any ill will, I will also say, which you need not even note, but you may keep in your mind, that in later years, at least from 1953, the tallest figure of this bank employees movement was Prabhatkar. From 1953 to, if I remember correctly, somewhere in 1980, he was the General Secretary of AIBEA. Thereafter, he was the president, and he died in 1987 as president of AIBEA. Only after this, BEFI also came into being. This Prabhatkar was a leader of what I mentioned earlier, Exchange Bank Employees Association. And Naresh Pal himself told me that I went there, I went to meet Prabhatkar. I very politely requested him to come and attend this first meeting, and if he pleases, say a few words, address them. But he simply brushed aside What union you are forming? How many banks are there? How many bank employees are there? Anyway, you go ahead, let me see. This was in 46, 20th April 1946 is the foundation day of AIBA. But by 49, he came to AIBA's conference, and 53 he became the General Secretary. Naresh Pal himself was instrumental for making him the General Secretary. And another big shot after Prabhatkar's death, and even much before Prabhatkar was very much active and General Secretary, he picked up one of his close associates in Central Bank of India, Tarakeshwar Chakravarti, made him an Assistant Secretary at a comparatively young age, and he became the General Secretary after Prabhatkar. Here a point you have to note. I am telling as my own, but I am quoting Tarakeshwar Chakravarti. I do not know how many of you have attended BEFI conference, first conference after Naresh Pal's demise in Kolkata. It was the first time when BEFI invited all the 9 General Secretaries of UFBU at a session which was marked for Naresh Pal commemoration session. All the 9 secretaries. Naturally, Tarakeshwar Chakravarti was one, not only one, but the prominent one among them. He came, and I am quoting only his words, he uttered in our conference. Yes, Naresh Pal has been my guru. But for him, I would never have become a trade unionist, not to speak a communist. Because I was born in a family of Congress people. All my father and other relatives were active Congress people, and I was also very much actively inclined to Congress party, Congress politics. But it is Naresh Pal whom, and I was an aspirant for higher posts in bank career. Easily you could have become a very, very big executive of Central Bank of India. But he caught me like that. I became a trade unionist, and subsequently I became a communist, he publicly declared. So that was Naresh Pal. And AIBEA went on. Yesterday I would like, at this juncture, I would like to quote a very serious question posed before us yesterday by Tapansan. What was that? Somebody referred to the majority union, and he was asking why a union, such a union is remaining the major union in the banking industry. Is it, I am asking, is it because of some big qualities of them, or is there any failure on our part? That part is what we have to give topmost attention. Any failure on our part, why such an organization remains. And to come to the relation between Naresh Pal and Tarakeshwar Chakravarti, during his older days, Tarakeshwar felt that in a conference of AIBEA, Naresh Pal also should be invited. By that time, he is the president of BEFI. Naresh Pal went there when his old student invited. Naresh Pal went there. He spoke. He was never an orator. He spoke. What he spoke? He said, I took the initiative to form AIBEA. And when I found that AIBEA is deviating from the fundamental perspective with which it was established. Yes, I myself took the initiative to form Bank Employees Federation of India. Do you know, yesterday it was also mentioned, do you know any 2 countries in the world which have the same national anthem? Anybody knows? two countries have the same national anthem. It is India and Bangladesh. Jana Gana Mana is the national anthem of both the countries. Like that, it is the same man who took the initiative to form these two organizations, All India Bank Employees Association and Bank Employees Federation of India. And he explained in those three words why. I also wish to say that that is the why of which. And history of bank employees movement, of course, if you simply just running like that, if you go through it, you can see that it was a long-drawn struggle, successes, then struggle, compromises, failures in the service conditions of bank employees. And where do bank employees get the power to struggle for their service conditions, betterment or better wages, etc.? Where do they get? Where do we get? There you have to remember that the British who ruled India, how ruthless they were. The first organizers of trade unions, so far as I knew, in South India, Madras was ruled directly by British. Those people in Buckingham and Carnatic Mill, owned by British, certain people formed a union. They just formed a union. Shingaravelu Chettiar, who became a great leader of the left movement later on, and of course died. Very, very prominent leader. He was one of the main initiators of that. And the British government, what did they do? They only formed a union and decided to frame a charter of demands and submit it to the Binny Mills management. But a criminal case for conspiracy was framed against them, and all these people were punished. That was the British government. If I tell the details of that, that will take too much time. I have already wasted 20 minutes. So, and another thing is that the peasants assembled in Amritsar, Jallianwala, how did the British government react? Put a big machine gun on the only door of that Maidan and simply fired. First, of course, they might have said, you disperse, etc. I know there are comrades from Punjab, and other comrades also might have gone and seen Jallianwala. That was British. They fired. How many people were killed? No correct information. There is a big well, you can go and see, many might have seen. And I was told, when I went there, the people who managed that, I was told that 130 dead bodies were taken from that well. Correct or not, I don't know. Anyway, that was what British rulers in India. The first thing was in 1919. Second thing, the Jallianwala Bagh also was in 1919. And 1926, they came out with a law, which is called Indian Trade Union Act. Why? Is it because they became magnanimous? No. The struggle of workers for better service conditions, better wages, etc. was developing and gaining momentum and strength day by day, day in and out. So, Britishers, the intelligent administrators as they were, they brought out, they thought of that and they brought a law. And that law gives the workers to unite themselves, form trade unions, place their demands, hold their meetings, have discussions with the management, etc. Trade union registration became a legal obligation of the unions. Is it what part? I'm sorry, I know. Some comrades are getting bored. That is because partially because of my certain problems, partially because of the subject, partially because of the receptivity of those comrades who become inattentive. In any way, so we should clearly remember, it is only for that I am saying this. We got the right to assemble, form union and fight for our rights only through the Trade Union Act first, which is a product of various struggles by our forefathers, various sacrifices by our forefathers. Whatever we reap today, whatever we enjoy today, that is the product of the cumulative sacrifices of our forefathers who were workers. Nothing was achieved by us singularly. This point always, as leaders, you must bear in mind and keep in mind. And thereafter also, struggles went on. These bank employees in 1946, they could form a trade union and register it and get a legal personality for it, was because of this Trade Union Act. In 1947, the very same Britishers, before that they were thinking of that, brought out another law, that is Industrial Dispute Act. Industrial Dispute Act is the law to resolve the disputes between employees and employers, workers and their owners. One lady comrade is getting sleepy, so I will tell a small story. Earlier, now I think they have wound it up. Labour Workers Education Center, is it still there? You are not sleeping, you are getting sleepy. That is not your fault. See, Rajita, forgive that. All have now smiled. I wanted that also. There was one workers' education center by Government of India. They gave opportunity for trade unions to send their activists for training classes, mainly at Nagpur and all other centers of India, at the expense of the government. So expenses reimbursement was some meager. Many of our comrades have got. And one Gopalakrishnan, who is also from Kerala, was director of that center for a long time. Once he came to take a class for bank employees at my request in Kerala. I don't know our Kerala comrades who are present here, any one of them has attended it or not. Have you, Anil? No. He's a very interesting man. So I am only referring this. He, just like this, and maybe when this rotten subject of law is explained, people may get bored or sleepy like that. Maybe because of that. He said, recently I attended this workers' beneficiary people organized by German Workers' Center. I was there and the discussions were there. And one friend from some European countries, he asked me a question. Mr. Gopal, why in India the law governing to resolve disputes between workers and owners, which is Industrial Disputes Act, why it is not an Industrial Relations Act? I didn't have any idea why it was so. So I suddenly said, no, my dear friend, in India, industrial relations means industrial disputes. There is no other relation between employees and employers. That he didn't say so much because they all understood. In India, industrial relation means industrial disputes. That is why that act is there. So that was the situation. May I tell one word also more about Naresh Pal? In 1946, this organization was formed. He was the supreme leader. 49, a central bank. There was the union before that. In central bank, he himself told me, because in my days when I began to inquire about leaders of bank employees movement and have some contacts, some remote contacts with them. We were in that remote part of Kerala, where banks are small, bank employees are also much less at that time. So I inquired about Naresh Pal, and the first story I got was that Naresh Pal was dismissed by Central Bank because he gave a blow with his chappal to his manager. This was the story. So I asked him, why you were dismissed? Then very succinctly, very slowly he told me, Pillai, the union was there and I was their leader. And one day, Calcutta was Central Bank of India's second largest office. Head office is in Bombay. The largest second office was in Calcutta. The manager of that branch at that time, he became the chief executive of Central Bank in his later years. He was the manager, all powerful. His stenographer, a young girl who had joined the union, which he didn't like. One day I saw she coming out from the cabin of the manager weeping. I said, why you are weeping? What happened? Then she, with much hesitation, he told me, no, the manager misbehaved me. What manager did, she did not tell me. I also do not know. Then I went to his cabin. I asked him why she has come out weeping. What have you done to her? Then the reply, arrogant reply was by the manager was that she is my steno. I will do whatever I want on her, with her. Who are you to ask? And he stopped there. Then I, out of my curiosity, I asked him, so you gave a blow? No. I could not control myself. I just took my chappal. Then he made a big hue and cry, big noise. All the staff assembled before the cabin. And what they see? He is sitting thoroughly dismayed and I standing with my chappal. Within 2 minutes, because police station is very nearby, within 2 minutes police came and took me. Thereafter I have not gone to the bank. He was put in jail for some time. And another question I asked him, and his answer. And there is many people say, what is your date of birth? He is a graduate from Dhaka University. What is your date of birth? Who knows? His reply. Who knows? Why? You are a graduate. You will have the records. What record? At that time, the certificate which I had given to the bank. And they dismissed me and sent me to jail, etc. I never have gone there and took back those certificates. I do not know whether they have it or not. So you don't know your age. I know my age. How? In our custom. I don't know whether that custom is still there in Bengal. I don't know. Our custom was that in a family, only the eldest offspring, whether daughter or son, will have the horoscope and actual time and date of birth. All others' age are calculated 2 years younger, 5 years younger, like that. So my eldest sister, her elder son is 1 year older than me. My eldest sister's son is 1 year older than me. Luckily, he is also in Calcutta. Whenever I want to know my age, I will call him. Hey Baba, what is my age? I will ask him and he will immediately say. Recently I have not asked him, so I don't know. So how bank employees trade union movement was built up? What was the sacrifice by at least this man? And I mentioned Tarakeshwar Chakravarti. And I mentioned Prabhakar. He was also dismissed by National Bank for trade union activities itself. But subsequently, he became a political worker. He did not confine to this bank employees movement. At that, Communist Party was the most progressive and revolutionary party. So he became a follower of Communist Party. Communist Party made him a member of Lok Sabha, member of Parliament twice. Of course, subsequently, National Bank was prepared to take him back, along with some others who were also dismissed, but they all were taken. Only bank must say some punishment, but Prabhakar without punishment, they were prepared to take back. But by that time, he learned that this is a better place for me to work. So he became member of parliament, and when we people entered the bank, he was the tallest leader of bank employees, and it was very difficult even to approach him. We can see him when he comes for some conferences, giving lectures and going. He was a good speaker also. must have much potential, otherwise one cannot rise to that occasion. There was another tall leader of AIBEA, Bank Employees Movement, that is H.L. Parwana. He is from Lahore, but he became permanently in Delhi. He was, I think, in Punjab National Bank. He was also dismissed and never went back. There are so many like that. But Naresh Pal, for one matter, I would say that he sacrificed most because they have all got positions. And I also had the opportunity to represent you people or your predecessors, BEFI people, for the negotiation for 5 bipartite settlements. I am a signatory of 5 bipartite settlements, but only a signatory, nothing else. I could also sign that sort. And even when I was very active in our union activities, Prabhatkar was the leader of the negotiating committee of bank employees, or subsequently of AIBEA. So when out of curiosity, I used to inquire. When discussions started, we all were put together before IBA negotiating team, and discussions goes on. So after curiosity, I asked people whether Prabhatkar also used to come and sit like this for all those things. One of our leaders, many of you may know, anyway, all from Canara Bank certainly knows, GMB Nayak. He has been one in the negotiating committee from his younger days. He told me, no, Prabhatkar will sit in Taj Hotel. He used to stay in Taj Hotel, the costliest hotel in India. And he will give instructions to people, Tarakeshwar Chakravarti and others, how negotiation should be done, etc. If there is any burning issue, then he will suddenly appear and may say something and either postpone or like that only. So he became such a great man. Parwana, but did not go for any such things, but confined to this movement and in Delhi. But he has passed away even before the formation of BEFI. But he remained as a trade union leader itself. He organized newspaper agents. These are certain traits which you may not find anywhere else, that's why I say. He organized newspaper distributors union, newspaper employees union, not journalists and other officers. And on the next day of his death, in the capital, this city, no newspaper was distributed in the city, the whole of city. Not a single newspaper distributing employee went for work. All paper was there. So such command he had. But he also, why I say all these things, only to remember, not only simply to remember as people remember Ram, Sri Ram or Sri Krishna, but to imbibe sacrifices of people. I think in one of the conferences in Vijayawada, maybe Indian Bank, I talked for 1 hour only on Naresh Pal and Rashisan, mainly on Naresh Pal. But all sacrifices, because I become somewhat, because I had all those stories from his own mouths. What all sacrifices he has done, we bank employees cannot imagine. Did not marry, did not have a family. Of course, bank employees of Calcutta made a small flat for him. They only paid by housing scheme, in the housing scheme. But in the end, he was living in the Central Bank Employees Cooperative Society, has a holiday home there. He was living there only. Of course, everything, his welfare was looked after very well by our comrades in Calcutta. So he never had anything to repent upon, but never aspired for posts. So without aspiring for any post in the union or in the bank, doing trade union work, that is the main trait of Naresh Pal, which we have to at least take into our mind and try to follow to the extent possible by me. I have several things, small things which may appear very silly, but has touched my heart so much. I am sharing with you. He was jocularly telling me, I had a very bad habit. Getting up in the morning, I want a cup of tea. But many days, I may not have 1 anna to have a cup of tea. So what will you do? I was sleeping in a room. I will simply, and anybody who has gone to Calcutta, not only Bengal people, who might have seen in Calcutta, every electric post you will see a boy sitting there and preparing tea and giving. Tea vendors, plenty. Bengali people drink tea also like that. So he told me, I will simply get out of the room and walk. So walking, some acquaintance will come across. And it is the habit of the Bengali, this is not the Bashish, habit of the Bengali when you meet first, chai khao. So when some acquaintance meets, he will ask, Naresh, chai khao. Much indifferently I will say, but I was walking for that. Can you imagine, take into your mind, a man who was a bank employee at that time, a graduate from Dhaka University, having not an anna with him to have a cup of tea in the morning. Why? And K.J. Joseph, one of the founder leaders of AIBEA, who was in Bombay throughout, I met him for the preparation of this history, movement of history, to get something from him. But he did not give anything in write, but talked to me for hours. I asked him, what was your relations with Naresh Pal? Can you tell me one example, how the man was? Because he was a frail man, small man, not an orator, not a very good writer, cannot influence you at a sight. I asked him, how was your relation? What is your impression about him? He was a wonderful man. I have no doubt that without him, this movement would not have come up. He somehow gets information about people in Bombay also, and my name was given by somebody. Because Bank of India had a union and I was secretary of Bombay. So he came to me. First day he met me and talked to me and asked me casually, where are you living? Then I told I was also a bachelor, I told the lodging where I live. Next time he came to my room direct, early morning. And what he does immediately, he will have a small bag in which there will be a lungi and a towel, nothing else. So as soon as he enters the room, he will put on that lungi and remove his clothes and go to the bathroom, wash it and put it there. That is a signal to me that he will go only after those dresses are ready. Maybe that he will stay there that day. And he may not have a single pie with him. Coming from Calcutta to Bombay, what for? Organizing bank employees. And then he will begin to talk. He will say, give me names. Joe, he was called Joe. Joe, you arrange a meeting of these people in the evening. Like that. And what is the time? It is already nearing 11. 11, I have to stop, isn't it? See, I have my own state's experience, directly not me. He told me. I heard that one nair has been dismissed by Bombay textile mills for trade union activity, who is in Trivandrum and recently in a bank. So I went to Trivandrum from Calcutta. Reaching Trivandrum, I had only 4 rupees in my pockets. I took a room in a small hotel. At that time, that room, they don't demand any advance, and even demand, it is only 2 rupees a day. And it is very near the railway station and bus stand, and I will stand on the main road. I stood there. How to find out this nair? No idea. So I will stand there and I will slowly, whenever somebody passed through me, I will slowly say, communist. Somebody will get scared and go away. Finally, one man, very scared, he is also scared, came to me and asked. So first he asked something in Malayalam. I said, I don't know your language. Then he said in English, are you mad? I said, why? See, communists are banned here. Police is after every communist or anybody who says it. At the time Travancore was the state and the Communist Party was banned. I don't go into details of that. But what do you want? Then I said, there is one Damodaran Nair who is in a bank and came from Bombay like that. Then he told me, come with me. Very nearly there was an office, Transport Employees Union Office. In Travancore, the first employees trade union was Transport Employees Union. It is still there. So he took me there and he left. That union people, they, within half an hour, they brought Damodaran Nair there. I talked to him and he took the initiative to form a union in Travancore. Travancore Bank Employees Union, which later became Travancore Bank Employees, all Bank Employees Union, which later became AIBS, Travancore unit and subsequently Kerala unit. So all the way from Calcutta to Trivandrum going without knowing anybody, without having even the money for return travel or food. Can you imagine? How daring! How daring to serve a purpose. Yes, I want to organize in this tiny southernmost tip of India. Come what may, I will go and do. So I don't go at length because time constraints are there. Bank Employees Trade Union movement built up in such a way. You have to. If anybody of you doesn't have that book, History of Bank Employees, you have to purchase it and occasionally go through it, then you will get all chronologically everything. Fourth, I mentioned Industrial Dispute Act. Now, when there is a dispute between workers and their employers, how it will be resolved? Industrial Dispute Act gives 3 ways to resolve such a dispute. One is by the government intervening as the supreme authority and imposing a tribunal who will hear both sides in detail. Whatever the employees' unions have to say, whatever the employer side has to say. And finally, after hearing all those things, they will give an award which will be approved by the government, put in the parliament and approved by the government, then becomes as powerful as a law. An award of an industrial tribunal to resolve a dispute between employees and employer has all the strength of a law. Second is both sides, the employee and employer, accepting on the suggestion of the government representatives to have an arbitration. It is called voluntary arbitration. Both sides agree that someone should be the arbitrator and before him views will be placed by both parties and he will also give an award, which also will have the power of a law. And the third is bilateral agreements. That is, both employees' representatives and employers' representatives sitting across the table, discussing their issues, finally coming to a settlement. Bank Employees Trade Union Movement has all these 3 experience. Initially, first combined concerted Charter of Demands were sent to a tribunal headed by Panchapagesha Shastri in 1953. 1955 he gave his award. When his award came, earlier on different regions there were disputes and different tribunals were imposed and there were different awards. So, this Shastri tribunals award, certain conditions, provisions were inferior to some other awards. Suppose you say, see, for Bank of India, an industrial dispute was raised, it was referred to a tribunal called Sen Tribunal. And this Sen Tribunal gave an award describing the pay scale and all to Bank of India employees. But Shastri Tribunal covers Bank of India also. But the pay scale recommended was less. Like that. Example I am telling. So, the trade union movement in 1955, against a tribunal's award which has all the power of a law, against that award, the bank employees went on strike. What was the impact of that strike, and why was that impact? V.V. Giri, who was the labor minister at that time, resigned because government did not take proper care to redress the genuine grievance of the bank employees. Finally, Jawaharlal Nehru, who was the Prime Minister, he himself interfered. And in the Parliament he said, another commission is posted to look into it and rectify the defects, if any. Gajendra Gadkar, a very respected Supreme Court Justice, was appointed as head of that commission which stood. So that is why Shastri Tribunal Award, if you get that book, it is written Shastri Award, bracketed modified. What point I wanted to tell you here? At that time, how militant the bank employees trade union movement was. AIBEA, particularly I mentioned AIBEA. How militant it was. That is why against an award itself going to struggle and strike and getting it rectified. Not giving this explanation, that explanation, after all this is an award, we can do nothing. No. That was the tradition. And all these things, I just mentioned that I joined in 1964 when the pay was, I was a government servant at that time. After putting about 3 years service, I was getting a total salary of 100 rupees. I joined the bank because in my appointment order itself offered me 136 rupees. So 36 rupees to you it is pittance. You may be giving to the beggar 100 rupees, but 36% of the existing way. That is why I went there. But my first salary itself was 180. So you can imagine, this I am telling not simply to have some idea about the wages and all that. I am trying to come to one initial point to answer Tabanson's question. What impact it will have among the workers who did not have any, and there are specific provisions in Shastri Award and subsequently the second award, Desai Award, for disciplinary actions, salary structure, payment of wages, everything. Bank employees who did not have any service condition before 10 years achieved such concrete service conditions. And it was the first in history because two things. Because at an all India level, comprising the entire workforce of an industry, we can call banking as a whole an industry, spread all over India in different states and so many banks under the one rope of same service condition. The impact of it is twofold. One is that there automatically becomes a unity of mind of bank employees. Everywhere our salary structure is, of course there are differences so many, I don't go to the details. Everything although I know I don't go. But under the same service condition. Second thing, improvement in the salary structure and service condition. You can leave the bank after 6.5 hours. Shastri decided, clerical staff 6.5 hours, subordinate staff 7 hours, security and drivers 8 hours. Could we change it so far to reduce it by half an hour? No. Instead, where are we now? There is no specific working hours. You have to work till your work is over. And recently Anil was telling me, one of the tallest leaders of another organization was explaining to his members that after all we have to work for 8 hours. After that we will go, because as per various settlements in State Bank of India, now the working hours of clerical staff may go up to 8.5 hours. 8 hours 10 minutes. From 6.5 hours, we have progressed to 8 hours 10 minutes. So in the initial stages, This difference, vast difference, that another impact on the employees is that they had an unstinted, spotless loyalty to the organization, trust in the organization, and loyalty to the leaders also. And this, another impact of this is that the bankers are very shrewd, otherwise they cannot be bankers. Banking is a particular profession which requires shrewdness to manage it. So they correctly evaluate this impact on the employees, the respect the leaders command, the trust of the workers in the union, the loyalty to the union. They assessed it perfectly. So how to meet it? That is why after the Desai Award, the first bipartite settlement, that is also a historical event. In any service industry anywhere, it was for the first time, even though that is there in the ID Act, that trade union and management coming to bilateral agreement on their service conditions. The first in the history. There is another aspect which is also first in the history. It is in the Desai Award that a variable DA formula linked to the cost of living index. When the cost of living goes up, and there is a scale to measure that, that is the index, price index. Cost of living, also whenever there is 4-point increase in the price index, so much, 3% initially to clerical staff and 4% initially itself to subordinate staff, dearness allowance increase has to be given. This formula in the service, in the salary structure was first achieved by Bank Employees Trade Union through the Desai Award in India for the first time. Subsequently now there are, the LIC employees got reason later, and through 5th Pay Commission only government employees got. That also not equivalent or equal to the neutralization rate of bank employees. So AIBEA leaders got so much privileges, so much respect and loyalty by employees, and they themselves loyalty to organization which brought them these benefits. That is the main reason why bank employees by and large even now remains in AIBEA, because this loyalty is being imparted. And they also, AIBEA also, even though BEFI was formed, AIBEA also is a left organization. I think yesterday Tapan also mentioned. What is left in left, I do not know. Anyway, they are also a left organization. And BEFI, it is for Debashish, because next session is by him to talk on the current position of the movement. I cannot, because trade union and emergence of its leaders, or trade unions' growth, development or decay, everything is somewhere related to the social developments. Leaders are not born as leaders. Great men are not born as great men. Greatness they achieve. Of course, some qualities should be there. So, Naresh Pal, Prabhakar, etc., they were product of the situations, social order, social conditions, social conventions at that time. Now, what is the scenario? In fact, I do not know anything of the way in which now banks are functioning. Even yesterday I was staying with S.S. Anil and Sanil Babu. They are talking so many things I do not understand. Everything is an app for me to say the least. So the scenario of the industry where you are working as a trade union has undergone a sea change. That is why 8 hours work they can easily extract from you. So how to combat this situation is the main question. Why BEFI is, and that organization is still major? The question, if I am to answer that question in my way, it will take a long time. Anyway, whether you like it or not, or you realize it or not, I classify trade unions in 3 ways. I classify, whether anybody accepts it or not, I don't. One is reactionary trade union. The other is reformist trade union. And the third is revolutionary trade union. So I may have to tell what these words represent. AITUC, All India Trade Union Congress, it was also Congress, was the first trade union formed in India at all India level. And Congress leaders, right from Lala Lajpat Rai, the founder president, to Jawaharlal Nehru, great Congress leaders were its president. But when India became independent and Congress became the ruling party, that shrewd leader of the Congress party, Sardar Patel, took the initiative to break AITUC. And he asked his followers in the trade union front, he might have, because he was the inaugurator of that conference. Indian National Trade Union Congress was formed. That was the first split in AITUC, engineered by Congress. And Patel, as an honest man, did not hide anything. In the inaugural address itself, he said, yes, we the Congress people took as part of freedom struggle to form the workers' union, All India organization called AITUC. That's why it is All India Trade Union Congress. But the influence of the RUD has been increasing in its continuously. And now it is almost under the control of the RUD. Their agenda is to fight the governments. But now we are in the government. We want an organization of workers which cooperates with the governments. And this organization is for that. Exact words may be different because I speak from memory. But his idea is that. And even now, INTUC is the trade union wing of the Congress party. There is nothing wrong in it, but the position they take is always taking government policies to the workers, not to take workers' problems to the government. And in our movement, so I would wish to categorize INTUC as a reactionary union, because workers are for social development, for gaining more and more of their rights established. But here always it is for compromising to the government's interest or the ruling class's interest. Government interest means ruling class's interest. In our own field, there are unions. AIBEA, first one, BEFI, NCB, INBEF, NOBW, 5 workmen unions. There is one of Shiva Sena also. These 5 workmen's unions participate in bipartisan negotiations together. Shiva Sena participates separately. I would say, more or less, NCB, INBEF, NOBW are reactionary unions. Depending on the ruling party, NOBW and INBEF may change stances, but basically they are for it. NCB has proved it. In State Bank of India, they are the trade union wing of the management. Trade union wing. Whatever the management wants, easily implemented. Agreement. Always getting into agreements on demands of the management with only one condition, that some money more should be given, whatever be the agreement. Because they know very well that these poor workers will be satisfied and happy if they get some more money, if whatever they have to sacrifice in lieu of that money. That's why I say they are reactionary unions. Whereas AIBEA is a reformist union. And what is the main cult of the reformist union? They want to reform the workers' conditions. They want betterment of the workers' conditions. Not only increases in wages, but also some improvements in service conditions. But they will always compromise with the management instead of taking whatever are their rights to the extent possible through the combined and militant struggles of the workers. Instead of that, try maximum to achieve without shedding a drop of tears, without losing a day's wages, getting some improvements which the management also can easily accept, and some improvement in wages, and have a compromise. This will be their approach. You now take any examples, you will find. That's why I say that they are a reformist. I don't say that BEFI is a revolutionary union. I would say, or I would rather claim, as one of the founder workers of BEFI, that BEFI from the very beginning wanted to be a revolutionary union. And it is up to you to convert it into a revolutionary union, to see that it progresses and develops into a really revolutionary. And what is the difference there? How will you define a revolutionary union, if you ask me? Because I have not seen anybody else defining it, so I do it myself. Workers, whatever through their struggles, or as I said, through compromises, they achieve by way of wage increase, soon they will realize that in their real life there has not been any real increase in wages. Why? The increased wages easily the other section can take away through the means of taxes and other things. You can, if anybody is interested in collecting statistics, you can take it. What was your salary before your wage revision, and what was the general expenditure for house maintenance, for your health care, etc. before the wage revision and a year after the wage revision. You will find that that increase has been wiped away. And through this process, the workers, they themselves will have some rough idea, but they have to be taught and realize that what is the most important factor is who controls the society, the government, and what are their interests and what are our interests. What are the main contradictions between these two interests? Then you will have to go for study, if you have not already done. What are these classes? Why we say that we are working class? Why we say that they are bourgeois class? How you will differentiate these classes? The most primitive and simplest definition of the working class is it is the class of workers who can earn a living only so long as they can sell their labor power, or their labor, they are commonly said. But technically and scientifically you have to understand labor power. Who can earn their living, earn their bread, only so long as they can sell their labor power. Otherwise, they do not have anything other than their labor power to earn their bread. Those are the workers. Another scientific definition to workers is workers are those who contribute to the surplus of the capitalists. In our terms, who create profits for the owners or the bourgeois. So, in technical terms, working class and bourgeoisie is, as I said, the owners of the means of production who appropriate the surplus created by the workers. So long as this bourgeoisie is in the controlling position, whatever rights by way of wage increase the workers achieve or earn, that will be taken back by them. Then where lies the final salvation of the workers, final resolution of their genuine demands? Only when they are removed from this position, bourgeoisie is removed from the position of controlling authority and replace that by the workers. In short, trade union activists and trade union workers have to learn and keep it in their mind that we have to work for our betterment of our service conditions and wage structure, simultaneously join with all forces who want to change this social order itself, who wants to pave the forward for a new social order. And you have to bear in mind in various parts of the world, right from Chicago's workers demanding 8-hour working hours, etc., to the various workers' struggles in India and many other countries. This process has been going on. And only where workers were able to throw away or dethrone the bourgeoisie from this position of ruling class, this could be implemented or this can be implemented. So bringing in their consciousness, one, loyalty to trade union and loyalty, a desire to get organized by ourselves and work for the betterment of our service condition and wages, simultaneously learning the lesson that so long as the society continues to be the same, divided into bourgeoisie and workers, and bourgeoisie dominating in the position, workers cannot have full emancipation, and for that they have to work for changing this social order. This perception I am only meaning. So those organizations which has this much perception, their duty is to transform the social order, not merely to succumb or get satisfied with short-term achievements as wage increase or service condition. Such a trade union we can call revolutionary trade union. This is my classification. Unfortunately, my throat has begun to non-cooperate. So with this perspective only BFI was formed. It has been working in that direction. If you just examine the various stages and various positions taken by BFI in several bipartite agreement settlement struggles and other struggles. I already mentioned one example which I have to say everywhere. Yesterday, Tapan also mentioned that against the new economic policies, so many strikes have taken place, and bank unions, particularly BEFI, AIBEA, have taken part in so many struggles. In relation to that, what I have to say is, the first struggle by National Campaign Committee, a body of various trade unions except INTUC, and of course BMS also was not there in this stage, but certain actions they also joined so long as Congress was in power. The first strike call, All India strike call by that committee on 30th August 1989, which contained 27 or so demands, and one important demand was Rajiv Gandhi, who is involved in the Bofors scandal, should resign. So demanding the resignation of the Prime Minister of India. That's a clearly political demand. And from among the bank employees trade unions, only BFI participated in that strike. None else. And we were very much put to attack by management by AIBEA. 89 August 30. But thereafter, how? Not only AIBEA, AIBOA, in several strikes. IBOC and NCB, INBEF and INBOC, NOBW and NOBO, depending on who is in power, organizations participated in the common struggle of central trade unions. Several strikes. So we should remember that this was because of the initiative of the BEFI with the perspective that unless we align ourselves with the struggling trade unions of the country in common struggle, maybe with political demands also, we have to join, otherwise this going ahead will be very great problem. And that enthused the general workers of other organizations also. That is why their leadership also had to come to that. They may give so many explanations and this and that, but the real crux is that this initiative, because I have got the experience, 20 years I was an active member of AIBM. No. When they go on strike, we should keep ourselves aloof. This was the instructions given to us. So, comrades, my throat is not helping, so I must conclude. I would only request you that future is in your hands. You have to take a solemn decision. I am not saying that you should go to the rampart and give a promise or anything like that, but in your own mind and consciousness you should take a vow that so long as I remain in this industry as a worker, I will continue to work for this trade union. One thing. Second, I will, because what are our main weaknesses and problems now? Earlier, one-to-one, the cooperation, coordination, affection, relationship with trade union members and even colleagues, that was very intense and intimate. Now do we have that much relation with our comrades and colleagues, general workers? How far we are able to mobilize and bring them, at least for common programs, our own programs. This issue you have to seriously consider, and where we fail or what is our weakness, you have to rectify. May I say, I was telling Anil the other day, my personal experience recently, one of the tall leaders of the Reserve Bank movement, All India Reserve Bank Association's vice president and later advisor, Vantankachan, passed away. And 7 days later, there was a condolence meeting in the hall of the Reserve Bank itself. Our Reserve Bank, Class 3, Class 4, 2 organizations. Class 3 has only our membership, only our own union, our own members. 135 or 140 members are there in that union. And this condolence is to commemorate a leader who passed away 7 days ago, who had contributed, according to their own terms, who has contributed to the organization throughout his life. And that meeting was only from their schedule, 6 to 7 p.m., 1 hour. Only 2-3 speakers remembering him. In the hall of Reserve Bank itself. You are all leaders, so, and Reserve Bank comrades, 1 or 2 are there. Out of this 140 or 130, the attendance of serving Reserve Bank employees, members of our organization, was 10 in their own office. But retired Reserve Bank employees, retired commercial bank employees, put together, there were 40-50 people. And Reserve Bank's other organizations, Class 3, because he helped them also, Class 3 organizations and Officers Association, their representative also, 3-4 were there. But our members, in their own premises, in commemoration of their leader, departed leader. A meeting is held only 10. I asked them why. See, all are youngsters, 2-3 years service, and within 2-3 years they get promoted. They are not interested in this thing. I told them that alone cannot explain. It depends upon your relationships with them, your intimacy with them, your persistent insistence on their participating in this union, bringing to your notice whatever freedom they enjoy now, whatever the rights they enjoy them. These are the results of sacrifices by so many before you. And tomorrow, the management changes and it comes forward with attacks. And this will be the only shield, only protector, this trade union. That also they must get into their mind. Whether they go as officer after 3 years, it is immaterial now. So long as they remain here, this idea they should get. You should propagate among them, talk to them friendly, and as a guardian you speak to your young members. I have told them. I am telling you also. You examine, whenever there is a call of the union, how many of your own members participate, and among them, how many participate with enthusiasm. If they are less than your expectations, assess and analyze the reasons for that. Find out the way out, how they can be approached and enthused. See, without sacrifice, nothing can be earned. Whatever you earn, that is not worth earning. Only with sacrifices we have come to this stage. So I don't ask any of them to be a martyr like Bhagat Singh. I don't ask any of you to be a martyr in your profession like Naresh Das or Naresh Pal or Prabhatkar. I only request you to devote your time as much as possible to study what I have very narrowly pointed out. What are these classes? What is really meant by class struggle? What is the importance of class? Why the apparatus of the state is dominated by one or a combination of one or two classes, and why that is an instrument to oppress and suppress the opposed class, that is, when it is by bourgeoisie, to the workers and peasants. These points you have to study, and by that idea in mind, and not by telling them that in such and such book it is said like this, so you follow that. No. By imbibing that in our mind, by making it our knowledge, with that, if you approach every worker and then try to enthuse him for more and more trade union activities. Now we take everything for granted. What is there? They are all young people, they are looking for promotion, they will go their way. I will do as much as I can, so long as I can, like that. And we depend more and more on this technology. I do not know all these things, so simply I am not raising a blind opposition. But from my experience, I tell you, organizing meetings through online, communicating everything through WhatsApp, if you think that you really maintain the intimate relationship with your members, I would say that we are wrong. That relation is different from getting together under one roof, discussing the problems in a meeting, and imparting more and more information and knowledge. That will have a tremendous effect. One-to-one and face-to-face physical relationship. That will help a long way. So I would request the organization is yours, and the future course, you are the decisive factors. So try to learn more and more about working class ideology. I stop there. More. And make it your own knowledge and try to impart it through your work. Studying too much and keep it with yourselves, and if possible writing articles in journals do not make the full purpose. But practicing it and implementing it in our day-to-day trade union work alone will be useful. I'm sorry I would have said something more, but my throat doesn't cooperate. So I wish. One simple point, if I mention, don't get offended by anybody. I do not know how many lady comrades are there. As per the eligibility criteria you have decided to attend this meeting, I do not know. Only 5. Why? And total number 60. And total comrades 60. Around 60. And out of 60 comrades, there are only 5 lady comrades, and only 3 comrades have come this way. Others may have personal problems. That we can understand. But out of 60 council committee members and office bearers, why there are only 5? Yesterday, I think Dawle or Sapansan, they were telling that the Manusmriti, how it considers the Dalits and bracket them the women. I don't say men chauvinism or anything, male chauvinism or anything, that I don't say. But we have to examine, self-examine, examine ourselves, how far we are victims of this male domination. Similarly, this clinging to positions, a difficulty to part with positions, even in trade unions, and how to promote youngsters willingly by ourselves deserting a position. If you are a president of the union for a long time, for 10 years, find out among all the youngsters in your union and forcibly deserting my position, installing the young comrade. He may not have the experience and maturity you may think, but experience and maturity will not come unless really experience. So such difficulties and problems, comrades and leaders will have to assess themselves and find out ways and means. I would finally request you to learn more of working class ideology and try to implement it in your day-to-day trade union work and develop into real leaders with 2 manifestations. One, the readiness to sacrifice, and the other, the readiness to take out any responsibility and face it accordingly. Thank you, comrades. Sorry for my weaknesses.
So, comrade, around 2 hours. So, now we will break for 10 minutes. But before that, if you need any clarifications, if you are having any doubts or anything, you just give it in writing. After giving that in writing, you can go down to the basement, you can have a tea and come back. Now it is 11:30. By 11:40 you have to return back. Before that, if anybody is having any doubts, any clarification is needed, give that in writing and go down. After coming back, nothing will be encouraged. Okay. Now we can have your tea.
We are also the reformist union. Then what? We are. That is what I try to. BEFI is an organization which has to be built up as a truly proper revolutionary trade union, and that task falls upon you. And for that, what minimum you have to do also, I have said. You have to master yourself in working class ideology, trade unions, and study well what are the tasks of the trade unions, particularly when our country itself is passing through such a worse political situation. I deliberately avoided those topics. The present day scenario, of course, Tapansen and Dawle explained, but I would have explained in my way, how I see it, but time and my health do not permit it. That's why I leave them. But that's by way of answer to this comrade, I would simply say that we have to make it a revolutionary trade union, and at present it is trying to be a revolutionary trade union. That's all what I can say.
Comrades, I think no more questions are there, no? Okay, so we can conclude this session. While concluding, I am not saying anything because two things are there. One thing is that soon after this meeting, I have to travel with him to Kochi. I know. I have told you that he is 24 years younger than me. You might have heard what he has talked now. See, he was referring a book of Lenin regarding imperialism, no? That's a very small book. He told that after his recommendation, I have that book and I have read that book. But after reading that book, whenever I used to go for taking any classes or speaking anything regarding this banking matter to our comrades, I used to carry that book with me. I will keep a bookmark in that chapter 5, which he was talking. And the points which he has explained here, I have marked that with my pen. Because I couldn't, it is not possible for me to remember that thing and talk to you, even now. But that all things you have seen how he has mentioned that. No, I am not taking any much time and I am not saying anything. I am not expressing our gratitude to Comrade PSP. It is also not so fair, no? Because as he has told, even though he is 84, whenever he is with us, he is with BEFI, he is not younger than me, he is younger than all other comrades. Because that energy he is getting when he is with us.